Yeah, so I'm actually on my way to the office, but I wanted to shoot this quick video for those SharePoint developers who are still coding with full trust code. Full trust code in Microsoft and the SharePoint world, they start to distinguish between full trust code, the app model, or what I call CSOM code, and then now they got this client-side model with the new SharePoint Developer Framework, aka I think SPFX. Um, if you're coding with the full trust code, the problem that you can run into is that you're going to find yourself unmarketable, especially if you're a consultant, and if you really want to progress your career here in the SharePoint world, you have to make the switch. Full trust code is when we do the WSPs in Visual Studio, and we deploy those. We have feature activations, we have remote event receivers, and all that stuff using the full trusted SharePoint object model or SharePoint APIs with the DLLs that's in the 15, 16 Hive or 14 Hive, depending on which version of SharePoint you're working with. Now, the problem that you can run into is that Microsoft is getting away from that. Even if you're looking at consulting, Microsoft Consulting, if you're doing the on-prem, they will advise you to, even as you're on-prem, to use the app model. Now, with the app model, you're going to have these add-ins and CSOM API and all this other good stuff, but it'll allow you to run all that code on a remote server, on a Windows 2012 server or 2008 server that does not have SharePoint installed. So that's the model you should be gravitating towards, especially if you're doing on-prem. Now, if you are moving towards the cloud, full trust is not even an option. CSOM is an option, but the new client-side development framework, SharePoint development framework, is going to be their new model, right? So you keep hearing about the modern UI, the modern UI. If you're familiar with O365, if you look at some of the document libraries, some of the lists, there's this very slick UI, out of the box, it's responsive design, it's mobile ready, it's mobile friendly. Those are the ones that's the new UI that uses this new SharePoint development framework, and that's where going to be the new model. So if you are in full trust and everything is in .NET, and you're using server-side object model, you're not using CSOM, your days are numbered. You have to retool. You got to move over to this new, at least the CSOM model. That will at least put you in the game. But it's going to be a lot of client-side development underway. In the roadmap of SharePoint development, there's a lot of client-side development that's going to be pure JavaScript, either with the React framework, which is what Microsoft and SharePoint is going to start using as the primer, right? No SP.js, no more core or spcore.js as your core. The React framework is going to be your core, and then later on top of that, obviously you can still do the out-of-the-box REST API, the custom REST API using Web API 2 that you need a custom build. You may run that with Azure or a server that is exposed to the internet. But it's all client side. It's all it's all JavaScript now, right? So you really have to gravitate towards a really solid framework, front end framework. Me personally, I love Angular JS. I'm just now starting to get started with Angular 2.0, but Angular 1.x, 1.5 plus is definitely the framework that I would recommend, because it's more so on the component model and not necessarily the directive and controller model that the 1.4 and below was accustomed to. So if you're serious about staying in SharePoint and really taking SharePoint with this new modern UI, this new digital age, because face it, companies are moving to the cloud. They're looking for rapid development. It's very similar to what the Amazon model, the Facebook model, the Google model, to where they're constantly releasing features. Businesses these days have to be that aggressive with providing new features that are going to be user-friendly to their consumer base to give them the competitive advantage. And, packaging everything in the WSP, running everything on the server, prevents you from upgrading quickly and safely from, '07 to 2010 to 2013 to 2016, even if you're on-prem. And then in the cloud, game over. You have to do client-side development. So again, if you're serious about staying in SharePoint as a developer, as an architect, moving to the cloud model, moving to O365, you have to retool your skill set. Get out of the .NET, get out of the C Sharp. C Sharp is still going to play a game, but it's going to be custom REST API services. And you're only going to build those when there are gaps with the out-of-the-box API. So if you want to say with it, I'm gonna create a series of what you can do now if you're on-prem because your company's not looking at the cloud, they don't trust the cloud, or there's other elements or factors preventing them from migrating to the cloud. I'll come up with a series of videos on what you can do now as a developer to position yourself and do all those custom features on-prem with this new model that will complement your skills. And then also I'm going to do a series of, as I learn the new SharePoint development framework, and for, as on preview now, as the time I'm shooting this video, it's actually in preview now, but I'm going to do a series of videos on how do I, the things that I've learned, some of the best practice and structures with the Yeoman generators and all this other good stuff, the best packages on how those are structured, and then actually start deploying those too. But I just wanted to shoot you this quick message. I had time, I'm stuck in traffic, so on my way to the office, but as a SharePoint developer, you gotta retool, you gotta upgrade your skills because the new model is coming, and it's coming fast.